Thank you so much for coming to my talk. I'm actually shocked there's this many people here. But I'm so excited to talk today about one of my favorite topics and is very near and dear to my heart, especially since we've recently launched our second product, how to persuade your first customers to take a chance on you. First off, I do want to say thank you to the Slush team. It is such an incredible experience to be here. This is my first time in Finland, and I love it. So thank you so much for organizing a wonderful conference. I'm Shensi, the co-founder and CEO of Merge. I'm going to talk about three primary things for starting something new, whether it's your first, second, or fifth product, getting your first customers to take a chance on you. A bit of background about me. Prior to starting Merge, I was chief of staff to the CEO at Expanse, which was acquired by Palo Alto Networks for $1 billion US. I started my career in investment banking at Credit Suisse and private equity at Silver Lake's Growth Equity Fund. And some background about Merge. We started the company around 5.5 years ago in San Francisco, and I started the company with one of my best friends from college. We've raised $75 million from investors like Excel, NEA, and Addition, and have 120 employees across San Francisco, New York City, and Berlin. We are so proud to have over 400 enterprise customers, including some of the top AI companies in the world, and large financial services, and of course, startups to public companies. We cover hundreds of integrations in our Merge Unified API product, and also thousands of tools in our Merge Agent Handler product. So we started the company 5.5 years ago and launched our second product a month ago. And to be honest, I was really curious to see if we were able to get our initial customers in the same way that we did 5 years ago. And we did. And this is what worked for us. It basically boils down to three core principles for how to get your first customers. Be delusional, but with conviction. Be aggressive. And be their bitch. And I'll explain all of them in detail here. So I've had several founders come to me for advice when they're just getting started. And oftentimes, they're a little bit bummed about something because the beginning is really, really hard. Sometimes we have had a really bad sales meeting, the customer wasn't interested, or a VC didn't like our pitch and they passed, or a candidate didn't accept our offer and we were really excited about them. And I always tell them, unfortunately, it's going to happen 100 more times. It doesn't get easier. Someone's going to quit, a customer is going to churn, and a deal is going to be lost. But you, as the founder, are responsible for being the North Star for your company. And you have to perk up. If you are emo and depressed, and you don't have conviction in your own company, why should anyone follow you? It's really your responsibility to have delusional optimism about where the company is going and why you are going to succeed. You have to be optimistic to the point of delusion. And not everyone is going to believe in you, and actually most people will not, but that's totally okay. If you are going to lead, you have to set an example for your team, and you have to keep going. And so being delusional doesn't mean that you can just hope and pray that things are going to work out. You really have to execute. You're going to be punched in the face. People are going to stab you in the back, but you have to keep going. You have to execute, you have to build, and you have to keep working hard. And there are times when you don't really feel like it. You're going to have to fake it till you make it. And it's going to be extremely painful. And I remember when we first got started, we had hundreds of calls with different prospects. And there were two companies that were really mean to us. They said they would never use our product. And a year later, we got them as our first customers. And so you just have to keep going. You have to use that to fuel you. And that will keep happening over and over again. Now, be aggressive. So now that you are fully delusional and filled with optimism, you have to be working as hard as possible to get those first few customers noticing you. You have to outbound. You have to promote yourself. And you have to be as aggressive as possible about trying to get people to know your company, even if it's really embarrassing, because the default state is that no one cares. And so who here is aware of the Jeff Bezos regret minimization framework? Raise your hand. Okay, I see a few hands in the audience. So Jeff Bezos, the founder and CEO of Amazon, had a mental model for decision making. He would ask himself, in X years, will I regret not doing this? If the answer was yes, then he did it. And if the answer was no, then he wouldn't. And this has been such a helpful framework for me when I'm company building. And I want to introduce a slightly new angle to this. So today I'm going to unveil the Shensi Ding Embarrassment Framework. So there are so many times when you're a company building, especially in the beginning, when you need to do something embarrassing. Like you need to outreach to someone that you don't really know very well. You need to walk up to someone that is clearly very well known and it's a little bit awkward, or you need to beg a prospect to take a chance on you, and it's always going to be uncomfortable. Yes, it's embarrassing. It's always embarrassing. But what's more embarrassing? Your company dying, or you sending that final message, or you just having that weird conversation? When we first got started, I remember the first awkward outreach that we made. So in the integration space, API partnerships are absolutely critical. And actually back then when we started, a lot of API providers were close to people just self-serve signing up. And I remember that we had a prospect that really wanted us to get a partnership with UKG. I filled out the partnership form several times and we never got a response. And the reason why was because we were just too small. We were 2 employees, no one cared, we had no customers, no one was going to take a chance on us or spend their time on a meeting. And so I noticed that they were backed by several private equity firms, and there was a person from college that I hadn't talked to in years. And it was obviously going to be very awkward for me to reach out to him. But he was working at the private equity firm and he would know someone who would be able to get me in contact with UKG. So I texted him, and it was weird. It was very transactional, but he actually immediately helped me, gave me the introduction to someone at his private equity firm. We got another introduction to the board. We then got another introduction to the C-suite, and we got into their API partnership program, and we were the first unified API to do so. And that first awkward outreach made such a big impact on me, because it made me realize that as a founder, it is my responsibility to set aside my ego and do these weird, awkward things, because it's so much better for my team for me to shoot my shot, try to get these unique opportunities, and put my company in a place where no one else is really willing to do these weird things. And so this always brings me back to the framework. What's more embarrassing, doing the awkward, embarrassing thing, or my company dying? And I always know what the answer is. Okay, so now you are in front of that person who could take a bet on you. And here's where you learn that everything is sales. Recruiting is sales, fundraising is sales, and obviously sales is sales. And it all comes back to being aggressive in your communication and execution. You have to share how you are going to be different from other vendors out there, and you have to share that you are extremely committed to solving this problem. A lot of the persuasion comes down to trust and actions, and that leads me to my last principle, being their bitch. So what does this mean? And my CRO hates me saying this, but it ultimately comes down to this, especially when it comes to your first customers. You have to take your customers' feedback and incorporate it quickly. You might have a vision for your product, but ultimately when it comes to B2B products, the customer really knows what they want. And they probably have a better understanding of the problem and what will actually solve the needs inside their company. You have to listen to what they're saying and think through the best ways to solve it. And you have to be extremely responsive to their questions. And all this really contributes to a great customer experience, because when you are smaller or you are just starting out, you are able to provide that unique white glove experience that a lot of bigger companies just can't offer. And why is this important? You might not have a better product. You probably actually don't. And so the way that you can stand out is with your customer success and how you end up serving that customer in a way that they haven't been able to be served in years. It's a huge advantage, and it's a really significant one if you can use it. So we got our first customer for Merge Unified and Merge Agent Handler the same way. We actually begged our first 2 customers to take a chance on us, and we did directly tell them that we would be their bitch. And we really did execute on it once we ended up signing those contracts. If there was a bug, we would be on it immediately. If they sent us a Slack message, we would respond the second I got it. And if there's a feature request, we would really look into how we could solve it as quickly as possible. This does mean late nights and weekends. It does mean a lot of personal sacrifices, and it's not always the fun thing to hear or do. But it's so worth it to get those first customers, because the reality is your product initially probably isn't that good. And getting those first few customers to be really happy means that the next customer will be happier, or at least have a much higher probability of being happy. And just remember that your early adopters are also betting their careers on you. A lot of them can get fired or look really bad internally if your product fails. And so it's really your responsibility to make them look good as possible. You owe them speed, you owe them reliability, and you also owe them follow through. And so wanted to finalize this presentation on my 3 principles. So be delusional, but with conviction, be aggressive, and then also be their bitch. And so everyone, good luck, start building, and I really hope you can get your first few customers. Thank you.